Hi, I'm
Hi.
Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be speaking with you
Hi,
here
Sarah.
in beautiful Venice. Maybe you could begin with a brief introduction to your film, Innocence. What can people expect if they watch it?
The film is about the pressure that young people, children as well, Israelis are being under, the pressure to become soldier in the Israeli military. So it's a kind of an epic film from early childhood until the very day of enrollment, where you get to experience as an audience all the moments from a very young age until that moment, the little things and the big things that are making every child in Israel become a soldier.
What was the genesis of this project? Why did you decide that this was an important topic that needed to be put onto the big screen?
First of all, it was a little bit of a personal story because as every Israeli, I was put under a lot of pressure as a child to become a soldier, like everyone else. And I've experienced all the kind of propaganda and kind of, yeah, pressure from friends and pressure from family and the education system that kind of track you towards doing military service. And I really hated it. And I did actually finally enroll to become a soldier. I didn't want to do it. I was maybe curious about it. I maybe was thinking I could do something positive. I knew I'm not going to hold a gun towards anyone because I didn't feel that this is something I want to, that this is something I believe in. Even though I didn't know a lot about like Palestinian occupation but it just didn't feel right to hold a gun in that context. I didn't feel Israel is in a real state of self-defense that justifies me holding a gun. And when I enrolled to the military service, it was such a harsh experience where I felt the whole system around me is trying to breaking my identity, breaking my values to become a soldier. So I started to really fight hard against that system and against everyone around me to come out of the service. It was a very, very tough effort. And for 3 months, I have tried to go to a psychologist and try to find a way out from the military. And I did finally manage not to do my military service, but I could, I really understand how much, how much it is so tough to go through that process. So the film is in a way a tribute. I wanted to make a tribute for people like me that were under the same kind of pressure, but they didn't make it out. They were not maybe either strong enough, maybe they could not imagine themselves to be outsiders as much as I was. And so it's a tribute to them. That maybe was my first reason. I have more reasons, political reasons as well. It's also a film that is done towards to parents internationally, also Israeli parents, because I feel it is our responsibility as parents to create a world for our children where they are not under pressure to do something against their values, that are not under pressure to be forced to do anything that is damaging to themselves and to do who they are, and definitely not to be part of such a corrupted thing, which is military. All militaries are corrupted. There are almost no military that is pure self-defense. We are holding weapons towards other human beings. That's the worst thing you can do in this world.
Tell us a bit about the process of making it and the people you worked with to put it together.
I wanted to. The film was based on narration that was coming from diaries and letters of soldiers who died. And I was looking for a really specific kind of text of a very sensitive and creative kind of people who really didn't belong to that world, who really had expressed also very well about it and had some kind of perspective over it. And I wanted the film to be their perspective without anyone talking about them, without interviews. And when I found these texts, it was clear that I also have to make a film around and visualize these texts. And I had beautiful archives of these soldiers. They were not enough to understand really what kind of pressure and what their context. So I came up with this idea to film different stories of children and teenagers that are different stories, but finding small and beautiful key moments of growing up in Israel. For instance, a child that is being told that he has to do military service and discovers it for the very first time, and a girl who says that she doesn't want to do military service, and she faces the fact that she has to do it, while her friend already at the age of 10 knows that she's going to be a combatant, which is crazy. So I wanted these little moments from life to be, in a way, some kind of illustration to those who are not here anymore, the soldiers who died. So it was a very tricky in the editing to create the balance between those who died, who are the main storytellers of the film. They're the more important, you could say. And then the stories of those who are alive and they're going to have a future, and what kind of future they're going to have. And also not to treat them as illustration, to treat them as real people with a real ambition and hopes, and some of them really want to become soldiers, and it's maybe even going to be good for them on the personal level. And we as audience have to deal with the fact that we are creating a world that military is actually a positive thing for people. We should not accept that. We should create another kind of structure where military is not becoming a way to build your own identity, even if it's positive.
It's obviously a very tough subject matter, but one that you were really driven by passion to tell. What were some of the most challenging moments, or some of the highlights for you in creating it?
Yeah, some of the stories ended up in suicide, and I think it was very difficult to deal with the families who had a lot of emotions. The families that are included in the film are all very, very supportive, and they are very happy for the film. And well, some of them didn't see at the film because it's a world release, but they're very happy for being in the film and their children exposed in the film. And but a lot of other families, they were very afraid, and it's a taboo subject, and they 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 don't want to be exposed. They don't want to be. They Some of them, they don't expect it, they don't accept even that this is whatever actually happened. Some families told me they have diaries they haven't never seen, they've never read, because it's too hard for them. Some texts in the film, the family themselves, they could not recognize because they didn't read them. They gave me the text and say, you just use them, we don't want to even read them because it's such a bomb. It's a quote someone told me, it's like a bomb. If I'm going to read this text, I don't know if I can continue living after. I think this has been a very hard. And the other part is also to find a good ethic for the film, in the way that I use stories of soldiers that died. Some of them, as I said, committed suicide, and then using kids and teenagers who have nothing to do directly with the death and such a morbid subject, and definitely not suicide. And so not to kind of create any confusion that this story, that's going to be the fate for these kids. That has been a very demanding editing, because it really involved finding an ethical way to tell the story.
And what do you hope the impact of your film to be? And I guess, as you mentioned there, it is such a taboo topic, and I speak as a complete outsider, but I know that any time there's ever any kind of headline or story about Israel, Palestine, there's, really is a very thorny topic for a lot of people. So did you have any nervousness about creating a film on this topic? And have you had any kind of, I don't know whether you want to say backlash or resistance to it?
Well, the film is not out yet anywhere. It's a world premiere, so I'm not yet facing any backlash. But people know who I am from my previous film, and so kind of I expect the worst. I wanted the film to be, first of all, done to parents, because I think parenthood is a big power, political power. Parents demanding their kids to not serve in the military, because military is destructive for their children, and the military is making their children hurt other people. The military is ruining our world in a time of environment crisis. We cannot afford spending $2 trillion per year right now in the world for military. So it is our role as parents, and it's a force being a parent to demand in front of governments and the Israeli government and say, we are not going to send our children to your military. and we're not gonna accept our children to go towards that system. And actually it is a very, and it's also in a way the film is a tool for the parents, because the parents, I think many parents, they think maybe we're gonna just educate our kids on the good values and on a good humanistic values, and then they will pick the right way. What I discovered when I have done that film is that that doesn't work actually. The kids are being put under such a huge pressures that are coming from all around them, that just being a good parent is just not enough. We have to be so so strong, so strong and so smart about how to give our children a sense of freedom to and the values to really not to really go against everyone around them. And even that is not always enough. I could add on top of that, I think we really need in the world to speak more about demilitarization. And so the film is also to open a discussion in general about what is military, what military is doing to people, to remind us we are in a world where we are consuming so much violence. A gun, a person holds a gun. This is not something that is shaking anyone. It's just a normality, and this is not we should not accept that this should be a normality. We should look at a real person. If it's a film, an entertainment, maybe, but when it's a real person holding a gun, we should not think that this is a normality. This is ruining us, and I think we have to fight to change the way we perceive military and soldiers. And we need that right now because, as I said, we are facing a huge climate, a huge environmental crisis. We are coming to it unready, where a lot of our energy and a lot of the money and a lot of the spending going towards the wrong things.
And what does it mean to you to have your film showing here in Venice and, well, just a few hours away from the world premiere?
Yeah. Yes, I am. I am very excited to be here in Venice. I am very excited that we are in the Horizon competition. We are the only documentary in that competition, so that really feels that like in a personal achievement, an artistic achievement, because it's a real film. I wanted to make a like a real cinematic experience, an emotional and cinematic experience, and that is another kind of documentary that is very demanding to make. It costly production wise. It's a huge work, is even for a documentary. So I'm very proud that Venice Film Festival saw that and gave us that space within the world of fiction films and surrounded by actors and by big entertainment business, and our film that has no glamour at all in it, but so it is very exciting.
And in that sense, how do you see the power of cinema to kind of tackle these topics in a way that perhaps reading news articles or information perhaps doesn't cut through the noise as much? And on top of that, the role of film festivals like Venice to provide a platform for such films.
Places like well, I'm not the person to analyze so well like film industry, and I take so long to make my films. So by the time I finish a new film, the industry has changed. So my observations are always a little bit behind because I'm really, Innocence is for me is a gift that I give to audience in general, and to make that kind of gift, you have to work hard and concentrate on the film. So I have little knowledge of the film industry almost, but I have a feeling that it has been changing in the sense that there's a lot of American platforms that are online, and there's nothing wrong about that. That it is good and it's okay. But I feel there has to be also a space for creative, artistic project that not necessarily are easy for Americans. Being making a film like that, I think, is a big challenge for Americans. So I think we should have space in other places in the world to other artistic approaches, other themes, other philosophies, and I'm that's a little bit my concern. And at the same time, I do want to have the film released in the U.S. It is very important audience for me. But I think what is really nice about Venice Film Festival is that they resist in that way, that they still give a big space for cinema and for world cinema, and not necessarily not objecting the trends, but also not only following them.
And just finally, you know, do you know what you're going to work on next? And did I hear it took, was it 10 years, this one in the making? Or is it something that, what do you think will be next? And do you think it'll be a similar period or?
I really cannot take, my next film cannot take 10 years because it's probably going to be about environment. And I think we have 10 years to change the whole world. That's what the scientists are saying. It's not my words. These next 10 years are maybe the most important 10 years in humanity. Scientists are saying that, not me. So I have to work faster.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and really enjoy presenting your film
Yeah.
this afternoon. And thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.
Lovely to chat to you.